Thursday's always a busy day. We have so much to get to for you today as we look at coronavirus inside the Arizona numbers. We know all the zip code maps and the school district maps are updated, and we know you're dying to get to those. So we promise we will go through all of them. We'll spend plenty of time on that. But there are a few things we do need to highlight before we get to that today, Garrett. And that is how the numbers are changing both on the summary page, and then we'll talk about how the counties are changing because those numbers were updated as well overnight. So a lot to get to. I don't want to delay anymore. Make sure in the comments you let us know what questions we can answer for you, and then we'll get to all of your zip codes and be able to peek at those as well. So Garrett, overall, as we start where we always do on that summary page, we are seeing a slight increase there in some of the numbers.
Yes, we are. We're starting to see a little bit more of an uptick than what we've seen in the past couple of weeks. So today, number of new reported cases, 705. That is, to what I have for reported numbers, that is pretty much the highest number of reported cases that we've had since September 18th, which is when the antigen tests were added in. So, we're still not in the quadruple digits. That's always great, but it still is a fairly high number. Our week over week now is essentially where it was from that week, which, you know, with these antigen tests being added, there was a lot of backfilling going on. There wasn't a lot of backfilling today. That's the difference between the two. So while we had really high case numbers, and with those 1,200 and 1,700, there's a lot of backfilling. Today, not so much. So somewhat higher numbers coming out.
Garrett, it's interesting. Yesterday we had 4,000 test results in. Today we have 14,000 test results in. So it's kind of bouncing around a little bit, and how the numbers are coming in.
It is bouncing around, and as you said, we do have. This is pretty much, one of those record style days today for testing. I mean, with this 14,000 tests is a mass number of tests. So we're getting this is likely happening a lot still in the university sectors. We're seeing increases in some of those counties. We have some of the rural counties that have some increases. Just certain areas of the state right now, we're sort of seeing flare-ups. And it said nothing to sort of raise the alarm bells about. We're not in late May where things are starting to skyrocket day after day, but it is something to at least be watching. As we said, we wouldn't be in the situation like we were in late May while we were chasing it for 2 weeks because our reporting wasn't all completely ready. We didn't have enough tests. So at this point, we do have a whole lot of tests. As you said, 14,000 in one day. That was something we never got, essentially, during that May and June rise. So we have the test to detect what's happening this time. That's definitely the best part.
Yeah. Somebody just asked about the flu numbers. How many people die in Arizona yearly in a normal flu season? About 160 is the number. We've had some high years that are closer to 300. But if you're asking that to compare to coronavirus, we've lost more than 5,600 people here in Arizona in just 6 months. So to compare that number and answer that question for you, John. All right, let's dive a little bit more into these numbers. Is there anything else on the summary page you want to get to before we talk about the county charts that came out today and how things have changed?
I do want to say, though, even though I'm sort of raising a little bit more concern than I typically do, I will say that the percent positives still look very good statewide. We're still sort of in that under 4% positive that we're seeing every day. So please understand that, yeah, I mean, as far as the percents of tests coming in, it's not increasing quite yet. It is increasing in some rural counties, but as far as statewide, it's not increasing quite yet.
Okay. Important to note there. And then as far as Maricopa County goes, what we kind of always see, that's about half the positive results were here in Maricopa County, which also reflects the population standards.
Yeah, it's pretty equally distributed today. About 8,200 tests from Maricopa County, and about 430 of the cases came from Maricopa County. That's pretty standard as far as what Maricopa's population is.
Yeah, Maria's writing the R0, rate of infection has risen above 1 again today. You're right, Maria. We saw that rise yesterday to 1.03. It's at 1.04 today. So it did tick up again, even over yesterday. Over the 1, we're about in the middle of the pack. We might have some time to spend more time on the R0 number a little bit later in this chat. Hopefully we will. So as far as the counties go, Garrett, the The one sheet that they give us looked drastically different today. Some better news. I should say all counties are in the moderate category for businesses, except Greenlee, which has been in that minimal spread, that minimal category. It's been there for a bit. So everybody in the moderate category, but the numbers don't necessarily reflect that 100%. So there are a few things to note if you're in a couple of counties.
We did talk about this. We have been talking about this for a couple of days, how there were going to be a couple counties that were cresting above the 100 per 100K. The AZ Department of Health made the decision that they would not switch a business reopening status to substantial unless all three metrics go into the substantial categories. And so those two counties, Coconino and Pima, that did go over the numbers for per 100 per 100, they are not going to be reevaluated. So the just to start where things changed, here's Graham County. This is the county that, as you can see, based on this number right here, last week was put into substantial. And this week it is in moderate because its cases per 100 is much lower than it was back on August 30th. And you can see its testing numbers have sort of bounced around, but they're under 5% at this point. The two counties that have that technically would have gone into substantial had that not changed this is Coconino. You can see very high percent positive or per capita numbers per week coming out of, in fact, it's the highest they have on record here. July 5th was 211 cases per 100,000. And that was basically the peak. And here we're at 217 September 13th. So now that to understand the context with that, of course, is this is the antigen testing that happened at NAU that really caused these numbers to flare up over in Coconino County. But you can also see the percent positives have also increased to 6.3. So definitely numbers rising in Coconino, and we have seen that elsewhere. We've seen that in the Navajo Nation. I've talked about how the Navajo Nation numbers are starting to creep up a little bit. So we're seeing sort of a little bit more of a resurgence in the northern portion of Arizona. Pima County, a different situation than Coconino County. You can see it's barely above the 100, nowhere near what it was at its peak, and its percent positive has actually gone down. So this is definitely because Pima is an urban county. It has an extremely large university in it, obviously with U of A. But still, even when you did the antigen testing down there for the students over at U of A, it's still, as far as the community spread, didn't really appear to be out of control. So this one looks like it's likely going to be in a better shape as time goes on. So in fact, I have a screen, a new graph to show you that I just put together. So it might be a little hard to read. I do apologize. I'll walk through them if you need it. This is basically that graph that we looked at, adding in 9/20, the most recent week we have complete data for all of the counties. So we can kind of see where counties are in danger and where they're not. And this is, we can see that Apache County, for example, when I was talking about northern Arizona starting to see a resurgence, Apache County is calculating over 100 per 100K for next week. So it's going to go above 100K. Coconino County, it has gone down, but not as far down as it was on 9/06. So this 9/20 is there's still a lot of cases coming out of there. Maricopa, excuse me, that's Gila County, my apologies. Gila County looks like it's going to have 2 weeks of over 100 at this point. Mojave County, excuse me, Graham. I always like to read, I read them like this, and I really should be reading like this. So Graham County is going to be over 100. And then Pima County will not be over 100 right now. They're actually going to be under. They're going to be where they should be. Maricopa County, which is right here, everything, you can see the numbers have slightly increased from week to week, but not over 100. And we already talked about Pima. So as you can see, it's pretty much a northern Arizona issue at this point.
Yeah, that's it kind of reflects that in that chart. Thank you for putting that together. It helps us see a little bit more about how things are changing. I'm so curious. I'm seeing a lot of information in the comments, and I just I want to know more about how people are thinking. I'm seeing a lot of people who are, I guess, to use it in a word, anti-mask, but pro-business. So I'm so curious how people who are those two reconcile those two different things. So how can you still be pro business and pro school, like everybody getting back, but you don't want to wear masks? I'm curious how that comes together. So let me know in the comments if you can tell us a little bit more about how you're thinking in that. Okay, so Garrett, with these numbers that are coming in, we always dive into the zip codes a little bit more. We were so hoping that would be updated earlier in the day, and it seems like now week to week they're opening those or they're passing those along to us a little bit earlier, so we can dive deeper into the zip codes.
Yeah, I get
are
it.
You ready to do that?
I'm ready. It comes out at 9 in the morning now. There was a couple little issues here and there this morning. I was saying, oh, look at these unified school districts that are green, and then someone pointed out to me, it's like, yeah, those aren't green, and it was like, oh, their numbers did not match their colors, and so then they redid it. It was Scottsdale, Cave Creek, and Fountain Hills this morning. They all showed green, and someone pointed out, like, these are not green, and we got that fixed. So let me share my screen with the district map. I'm going to start, just so everyone knows, I start at the highest jurisdiction size, so city, and then we're going to go down to zip code. So just keep the zip codes ready to go, but I'm going to start here at the city. As you can see, one small, tiny little city, Youngtown, is the only jurisdiction that has a case per 100 of over 100, and that seems to be because of last week. Aside from that, their case per 100 is very low this week, so they should be calculated into yellow. Other than that, pretty much everywhere, you see Wickenburg is now at minimal, and so is Gila Bend, but essentially all of the city jurisdictions are now in the moderate category. So now we're going to oh, sorry, go ahead, Katie, if you have something.
No, I was just going to leave that map up for one more second, just so everybody could get a really good look at it. But it looks like, we're in great shape and working toward getting better. Of course, the newer numbers coming in could always change that. We still do need to watch Youngtown, as you said, but this kind of gives everybody an overview so we don't have to go city by city for each one. Garrett's clicking on a few for you, but if you want to look at this map, we can put the link in the chat as well so that you can go in and check out your city and see the specific numbers. But we will.
Yeah, for the most part, with the exception of Buckeye, it seems that most jurisdictions had an increase from the week prior. Just at this size, it does appear to be that case. I'm clicking on all of these. Goodyear, it was 21 2 weeks. Actually, it's more like 3 weeks ago. I know that I say 2 weeks, but it was 2 weeks from in the calculation. About 3 weeks ago, 22, and now it's at 40. Phoenix was at 29, and now it's at 41. So we're seeing, as we're talking about, we're seeing slight increases everywhere.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go just a little bit deeper onto that map, and we can show you some more with the unified school district.
Yes, we'll go with the unifieds, and we talked about how how this works is, for the most part, is it's going to sort of go from the end in, just as the county gets more dense, it will go to just organically become more substantial as the county goes into more dense territory, and all of the unifieds are in the sort of the suburban areas of Phoenix. So you can see pretty much everybody but Nottaburg. Nottaburg is considered minimal. You can see it didn't even register cases. It hasn't registered cases for about 3 weeks now. But aside from that, all of and then of course Gila Bend, same thing. It didn't register any cases for the past 3 weeks. But Maricopa County, you can see Queen Creek went from 37.8 to 73.35, still in moderate, but definitely increases in Queen Creek. Higley, same thing, went from 20 to 45, so increases in Higley. All of the East Valley, there's increases everywhere. So like I said, we're seeing slight increases in pretty much every jurisdiction. Mesa from 19 to 33 with a higher percent positive. Scottsdale from 35 to 51 with a higher percent positive. I mean, the story is essentially the same anywhere I click at this point. When we go to the zip code level, it will change, but essentially this is what we're getting out of this and it seems to be more of an East Valley problem at this point. A lot of the West Valley, the changes are minimal on the West Valley, and on the East Valley, they're a little bit more stark. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so it's pretty much too early to say what's going to happen here, if it's going to continue increasing or if this is just a little bump that we're seeing as people are becoming more mobile or getting back to work and school. but we'll of course continue to track all of this for you here. And as we look at the high school district, it's important to remind everybody they aren't drawn exactly the same as the elementary school district, so it's worth checking each of these depending on your area. Overall, I'm sure this is sort of mirroring what we're seeing across the valley.
Well, like I said, it's interesting. It seems that this what's going on right now seems to be a little bit more concentrated on the east side of the valley, because when you click on some of these on the western side of the valley, there are increases, but they're a little less stark. It's 26 to 35 in Agua Fria Union High School. In Glendale, right here, it's 25 to 43. And we were talking about the unified school districts, how some of them were almost tripling. So.
Wow.
But essentially, everybody's in moderate. Tempe Union has gone down. That was one that was insubstantial two calculations ago, and it has gone down. It went from 63 to 55. So that's good news for Tempe Union. It just shows how sort of that area is starting to peel off a little bit from what it was getting at ASU. So here is the elementary school districts. You can see essentially all are yellow except for these. You've got these exurban. Excuse me, I wouldn't even call these exurban, these rural elementary school districts that are all in minimal. And then you've got these red sort of dense ones right here and at the 101 freeway, Avondale, Buckeye area, where you still have some residuals. Most of these, if you look at them, they have some fairly high percent positivity, but all of their percent per capita numbers are pretty good. They're all essentially in the moderate, but they still have fairly high percent positives from a week ago. And the rest of them are in yellow at this point. So we're looking at like this one right here, Balls Elementary School District. And this one is only it went from 12 to 18 with a fairly low percent positive. So all in all, here's one that actually went up pretty high. This is Phoenix. This is Phoenix Elementary School District. It went from 22 to 71. But it also looks like it had to do with a lot of cases being done because their percent positivity almost didn't change at all. So the testing in that area has just exploded compared to where to where it was.
Yeah, I just want to get, to a few questions that were coming in. Why this is only, sorry, I'm gonna have to take a sip of water. Why this is only Maricopa? Maybe you can answer that, Garrett.
Well, this is only Maricopa because this application is from Maricopa, their GIS department. So this is Maricopa's project. This is their application. In order for another county to give us something like this, they would have to replicate this application, and I haven't seen it yet. So this is Maricopa because it is the county data that we're looking at. They release this. They change it every Thursday.
Yeah. So, Crystal's writing, that's a bummer. I'm interested in the rest of the state as well. We'll get to that in our overview. It's because, Crystal, we only get this, and we're lucky to get this from Maricopa County, that we're able to dive into these zip codes a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So we'll look at some of these red ones. Pendergast, it looks like this is a holdover with a high percent positivity from a couple weeks ago. And then Littleton, same exact thing, high percent positivity from a couple weeks ago. This is Cartwright. High percent positivity. You can tell there's definitely an echo in my voice here. Same thing with Riverside, and I'm repeating myself a lot. But and here's Fowler, which actually has a high percent positivity from this last week rather than 2 weeks ago. So all right, well that was city. Sorry.
We'll get into the zip codes. Okay, now it's time to post the zip codes. We'll go through all of them. We'll go through an overview and then dive in specifically.
So the overview,
post in the comments.
Yeah, and so the overview, just like it was before with the green, the minimal transmission zip codes for the most part are all located in areas with minimal population in Maricopa County. These are extremely rural areas. Most of the yellow here is just Phoenix, suburban, pretty much everywhere in the valley. We do have some red areas. 85281, the ASU zip code, is still in red, and so is the Salt River Pima Reservation. We have a small collection of red zip codes that are still in the East Valley Avondale area. And then also there's one red right here at Palo Verde. And I don't know if this is the actual plant, but this is just random red zip code in Palo Verde. And that looks like it was a cases per 100 that was extremely high 2 weeks ago. So, all right, well, that's what the look is. It looks like we are right here in downtown Phoenix. So let's look at a couple of these. I'll start going through them. 85027, this has seen increases from 12 to 41 and 2.5 to 7.1. So there's some increases in 85027. And I think that's going to be a theme, what I just said, throughout all of this. In 85268, it looks like the case per 100 has doubled with the same amount of percent positivity. And then 85326, 85326. It looks like, oh, this one's actually gone down. This went from 28 to 26 with a percent positivity that increased just slightly, but that's good news for that zip code, especially because I'm pretty much sure that a lot of these, here's 85281, thank you, Jennifer. 85281 is still just has a enormous case per 100, simply because it is ASU, and they're doing probably the bulk of the testing we see every day is coming from like this zip code and 85719 in Pima and NAU zip codes. So there's a lot of testing coming from this area, trying to make sure that they contain and control their populations, you know, that any sort of situation there, they've got under control there. And you can see, actually, it's decreased from 2 weeks ago, and the percent positivity has gone down into under 5%. So that's great news for 85281. 85041. This one it increased from 31 to 54 with the same percent positivity. So certainly due to testing. Thank you, Ricky. We got you there. 85338. 85338 Avondale. I think I just went over this one, but it did go down from 29 to 26 with a very low percent positivity. So, Martha, good news for that zip code. Things look like they're where things are going up everywhere else. That's a pretty good zip code. 85374 went from 11 to 28 with about going from a 2% to a 3% positivity. So definitely more testing going on, but they're also catching, you know, more cases. 85207, this is Far East Valley. This went from 11 case per 100 to 21 case per 100 with the same percent positivity. Much larger volume of tests, it appears. 85250 in Scottsdale went from 17 to 29 with, again, the same percent positivity. It went down slightly. But there you go for 85021. This looks like it's right in the middle of Phoenix. This has not changed. They are at case per 100 is 39. Case per 100 for this last week is 39. So no changes in 85021 from week to week. Same amount of people are same amount of cases are being detected. 85297. This is Gilbert. Went from, wow, this one went up pretty decently here. It went from a 19 to a 49 with the same percent positivity. So definitely more testing going on in this zip code. Let's see, 85331. This is way up in Cave Creek. Oh, this one definitely, it went from 3 cases per 100 to 33. So it basically multiplied by 10, Jessica. Now it was very low, but it's still multiplied by 10.
Is that Cave Creek that you're pulling up right there?
Yeah, Queen. This is Cave Creek.
Yeah. So, and that's part of the reporting that we've been doing too, is the cases in the high schools around there that we've been tracking, and the football team in quarantine. So some of those concerns would come into play as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely being detected. 85051. This is Phoenix from 25 to 59, so a little more than double with a very high percent positivity. So if I was in 85051 right now, I'd be watching what's going on in this zip code.
Yeah, Nicole joins us a lot. So Nicole, we'll try to keep you updated on here as well as that changes.
85383. This went from 26 to 60. So about doubled again. And this, again, is going to be a narrative we're going to hear with these numbers. It looks like everything's going to be, you know, either up or doubled. But the percent positivity is only up a little bit. So that just, to me, means that there's just a much higher volume of tests there as well. 5382. 85382. 13 to 27, so doubled with a slightly higher percent positivity in that zip code.
So one of the things I think is a worthwhile reminder for everybody, if you see the test numbers go up or the case numbers go up, but your percent positive would stay the same week to week, that would indicate to people not necessarily to be alarmed, but that there was more testing going on in that area.
Well, yeah, it's because that's if cases per 100 are doubling and the percent positivity is the same, then there's only one side of the equation that could have changed that, and that's the volume of tests.
Right.
So that's why you would see that. So in other situations where I saw where it went double, but also the percent positive, that means that the same volume of tests, but more people were testing positive.
Yeah, so important to look at all those numbers on there as we're alerting you to some of the things. And Garrett's been great about explaining what that really means. But so you know, if it's more testing happening, maybe there was like some sort of blitz at a school or something like that to try to get a bunch of tests pushed through. Just remember to look at all those numbers.
85, where am I? I am at 85033. This is a holdover. It was red last week. You can see very little change. It went from 44 to 60. Excuse me, with a percent positivity of 11%. So no real changes in 85033 from the week prior. 85301, this was at one point one of the hardest hit zip codes in Maricopa County. It went from 20 to 45, so it did double. But again, same percent positivity. So I detect that's just a much higher volume of tests. 85139. This is, where the heck is this? This is
zoom out a little bit there.
Yeah, I gotta go. Okay, so this is like the town of Maricopa, essentially. There's nothing there, really. And 85139, and there's no tests, no cases in 85139. So 85142. Queen Creek. Well, that's interesting. Well, okay. Well, I mean, technically, zip codes, you're not always going to say, let me put one more caveat because it just reminded me of this. The percent positivity, as you can see in Cave Creek, went from 19 to 60, so it tripled in 85142. However, the percent positivity is 0. That leads me to believe that the tests were not conducted in Queen Creek for some reason. This is an interesting situation. We may have to look into how this could have a percent positivity of 0 for 2 weeks in a row, but the case per 100 is tripled. So I'm going to put this one on my radar.
Okay, well, we'll poke around, ask you a few more questions about this for everybody. For people who haven't seen their zip code come up, we're trying to get to everybody. Garrett, can you tell them where they can find this?
Yes, this is, let me put up here. I'm just going to give you guys this is the easy link. I'm going to give it to producer Carrie, who's back. Yay. She can put that up on the segment thing there. I forget what it's called at this very moment. Let's see. 85251 Scottsdale, 31 to 51 with a lower percent positivity. All right. 85286. This is found, by the way, just in case, it's at gis.maricopa.gov. There it is, -COVID-schools. 85286. This one just increased by a little bit with the same percent positivity.
Garrett, one of the areas that we were watching so closely was on the Salt River Pima Reservation. We were seeing some higher numbers out there. I want to say it was almost dipping into the red last week. Is it looking any better? Yeah,
well, I want to say it's looking about the same, but not much worse, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like it's not better, but it's only 144 to 160, which means it's essentially the same from week to week. And the percent positivity has actually gone down, which means there's more testing being done, especially in a place like Salt River, Pima. There's some zip codes like 85281 in Salt River, and some of these zip codes where we know that there's congregate settings where we could be a little bit more reliant on the percent positivity because we know that there's targeted testing going on in that zip code. So in something like where there's a tribal land area, I would say that there's definitely a volume of tests that's it's going to fluctuate, but we can be confident in it. 85208. This is Mesa, and it has gone from 13 to 31, so it has also doubled with the same percent positivity. Let's see. And yes, you're right. All zips seem to have 2% for COVID-like illness, and is that because Maricopa's counties? Yes, you are correct. The COVID-like illness syndromic algorithm does not go down to zip code level at all. In fact, it's in some of these counties, it actually encompasses like 3 or 4 different counties because it's more of a hospital region metric than it is a county metric. So there are some counties, in fact, there are some counties that this metric would be the same in some portions of Navajo County that it would be in places in Utah because they share the same hospital region.
Right.
So that will happen. I'm sorry?
That was a really good question from
Yeah,
Jessica.
great question. Yeah, it's going to be the same for pretty much everywhere, and for several, like I said, for several counties, it'll be the same as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to wander. Sorry. 85406. I think we're running low on the people asking. Sorry, I don't have 85406. I think 85048. We're going to stop here. 85048. This looks like it's Ahwatukee. And this went from 25 to 22. So Ahwatukee, actually, the cases went down in Ahwatukee. Percent positivity from 5% to 2.7. So Ahwatukee did go down that 85048 zip code. So
Okay.
we'll probably go back to it, but I'm gonna just stop for a little bit.
I'm seeing really good questions. Michelle's asking, okay, this is good. She's saying, okay, see, this is confusing because she's hearing all these increases and doubling, and yet and her comments moving too quickly. There's a big news article talking about how all the counties are in moderate to reopen. So I am hoping we can help better explain that, how that's happening right now. When the counties were lowered into the moderate category from substantial, we're seeing some that are poking back up, but the governor basically is saying they're not going to shut down businesses at this point. They're not going to make any more health recommendations or changes to close businesses.
Correct. And really, it's really a sum of the all parts thing. When we look at the zip code data, we're looking at tiny granularities of percent positive or per 100K. I mean, some of these zip codes have only 1,000 people in them, whereas Maricopa County in and of itself has what, 2 million people, if I remember, a little bit more,
Maricopa
right?
County?
Yeah, like 4 million or something, right?
4 million in Maricopa County.
My whole life is in registered voters sometimes, so it's got 2.5 million registered voters and 4 million people. So thank you. So we look at, when you take the sum of the parts in that per capita, you can see it did increase. It went from 32 to 44 on the data that we're looking at, but because Maricopa itself is so much larger than these zip codes that we're talking about, how they're doubling and doubling and doubling, it only really, the formula, when it crunches down to these big numbers, it only goes up a tiny bit.
Yeah. Okay, so Jan's asking, so is everything opening up? So Jan, since we're in that moderate category, and we've been in that moderate category, everything basically stays the same at this point. So although now all the counties except Greenlee, so I'm talking about all 14, not the 15th county of Greenlee. Greenlee's in its own case. They're basically in the minimal category, and they have even more relaxed rules than the rest of the state. But Jan, for restaurants and gyms and movie theaters and all that stuff, everything stays the same at this point, but now everybody's in the moderate category to sort of stay the same. So that means that for most cases, most businesses are at 50% right now. Masks are required, things like that. The mitigation efforts are still in place. So really good question right there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at my graphs right here, and this last week, because if you remember, now we're calculating on 9/6 and 9/13. We're not here at 9/20 yet as far as those dashboards. So what happened during 9/6 and 9/13? All of the universities, all the antigen tests, all of these congregate setting tests, a lot of, like, our volume of testing just skyrocketed from the last couple of weeks. So I'm looking in this, and even though all of these counties are still in the moderate for the most part, it looks like 13 of 15 counties had increases during this time period. Like almost all of the counties experienced a small increase. Now, some of these counties, when I look at the 9/20 numbers, the September 20th, some of these are going back down. Some of them aren't. There are some counties that aren't going back down, but some are. So again, we're in this very weird observational period where we sort of have to watch what's going on in some counties.
Yeah. Okay. So nobody is close at this point to joining Greenlee in that minimal category. Then we're all solid in the moderate. So if you're a business owner and you're hearing this, it doesn't seem like things will change for you, whether that's opening more or closing more. You're just kind of in this middle account here, or middle section here.
I would say nothing changes in this respect. Even though we did experience some increases from here and there, Yavapai County, Cochise County, are still in good, especially Cochise. I'm looking at Cochise right now. Cochise is in great shape to eventually join Greenlee in the minimal category, even though it did experience an increase. It went from 8 to 17, so it doubled, yes. But let's see what it did this last week. Cochise County has gone. Where are you? It stayed the same, so it looks like it's going to be a couple weeks if it gets put into minimal. If this is just a testing increase and not a transmission increase. But right now, Cochise and Yavapai are still doing okay as far as eventually joining Greenlee in that minimal.
Yeah. A lot of people were asking about karaoke and dancing in the comments. And so in this moderate category, remember, for bars and nightclubs with the dine-in service, they're still at 50% occupancy. And even if we got into that minimal category, they're still at 50% occupancy for bars and nightclubs with dine-in service until we hit 3%, less than 3% positivity. So if you're interested in karaoke or in dancing, you're gonna have to do that at home. That is still out at this point. For the moderate category, for movie theaters, water parks and tubing kind of non-existent now that we're getting into October, but for movie theaters, still at 50% occupancy. Yeah. Even if we got to minimal category, it's still 50% occupancy. It's that 3% positivity rate that we'd need to dip under to see some of those, the movie theaters, bars, nightclubs, restaurants, all that open.
Yeah, exactly.
The big category, Garrett, that changes from moderate to minimal is the gyms. Because right now gyms are supposed to be at moderate category in 25% occupancy, and they jump down to 50% occupancy if all the mitigation strategies are still in place. But if they go to that minimal category, then that's the biggest part that changes. So that's the biggest group that changes when we hit the minimal. So although we're talking about it a lot, it's mostly for you gym goers or gym owners that would change the most for you. The rest of it's still at pretty much 50%.
Yes, and like you said, like these bars that don't serve food, like a karaoke bar or whatever, that wouldn't be open until we hit 3%. Anything, you have to hit 3% positivity for 2 weeks in a row in order to be open in that respect, and no one's really close to that.
So it's mostly about the shared space, the dancing and the karaoke, sharing a mic, things like that. But that's why those activities are still, you got to do them at home or whatever. So gotta make another plan. Sing in the shower, if you will, if that's the way it goes right now. All right. I want to get to some more of the questions, but we only have a matter of minutes left. Oh, Jacob's writing party at my house. Just kidding. Everyone's invited. Thank you, Jacob. We'll need a party after all this. That's for sure. Let's see. I want to go through some of the other comments. I haven't been able to catch up on them. Garrett, did you see any of the questions or comments?
I was too busy doing zip codes. Oh, how did the ER numbers look like?
Yes, Deborah.
Okay, thank you, Deborah. All right. Yeah, let's go through hospitalizations really quick because
we should. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
The hospitalization numbers, just for everybody that doesn't join us on here, or you're a Thursday sampling person who doesn't always get on here with us, remember that if we have an increase in cases, then we usually don't see that reflected anywhere else in the hospitalization numbers for a couple of weeks, except if you're visiting the ER. If maybe you haven't been tested and you're feeling too sick to be able to take care of yourself at home, we're going to see that reflected there. So really good question, Deborah. We'll get right to it.
So this is all the hospitalization data put on the same graph so we can see them all. Obviously there's a lot more inpatient beds than ICU and emergency, but I put them all on the same graph so that we can see them together. And you can see that we are right now, ICU is still at record lows. Our inpatient beds have had 4 days of increases right now. It's the highest it's been since early September. For the inpatients, just barely the highest it's been since early September. So we're gonna have to keep watching that. The emergency room department visits are also up for 3 days. However, you can see a couple, last week we had a massive, remember we talked about how they were misaligned. So this isn't actually a drop, this is a misalignment of reporting from one of the hospital systems. This graph probably should have been a little bit more like this, but we had one hospital system in this period right here that just decided to not report. So things are looking okay for hospital or for emergency room visits. Inpatient, I'm a little worried about. 4 days is that's starting to get into trend territory. So we'll see what happens over the next, for the rest of the week. And then emergency room visits also up, but again, it's gone up 3 days before and been okay. So we're just going to keep watching that one.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see. And then we really didn't get to that overview of schools in the one sheet that they provide from the county, but I can let you know it mirrors exactly the business one sheet that they put out, and that is all counties in the hybrid learning. They're all cleared for hybrid learning, and then the only county that is cleared 100% for in-person is Greenlee. So that directly reflects what you're seeing in the business chart.
I mean, Greenlee still has one active case. That is the number of cases that are in Greenlee. One. I mean, there could be more cases, of course, but the number of active confirmed cases, just one.
Yeah.
In fact, Gila only has has less than 20 cases too. So there's some of these counties that are showing higher numbers right now, or at least higher percent positives, but I haven't seen them reflected in the numbers yet because they're pretty. Like I said, when you take their active cases or their recoveries and their case numbers, they're pretty close together. So,
yeah, I'm seeing a lot of comments about people talking about survival, and one thing to always remember is whether you can afford a hospital stay at this point, whether your insurance covers a hospital stay enough for you to take the risk to make different choices for your life. So it's something to think of. A lot of times people just talk about survival. Of course, that's obviously the most important, but looking at your financial situation too, and whether you could afford a hospital stay, it's absolutely a consideration. And as we always say on here, we provide you this data and we relay this information to you as it comes from the state, but this is a place for you to make your own decisions about your own life. Your health, your financial situation to afford a hospital stay or afford those doctor's visits. So you have to make the decision for you and for your family. We're just here to provide you with the data and help teach you where to find this information so that if you're on a weekend, we're not here with you, you want to look it up, you know exactly where to go to find this. So just want to reiterate our mission here and help you know where you can find this stuff, and then you make the best choice. You know your age, your health, your all of that. So hopefully we're able to do that here for you. Okay, any other last minute things? Tomorrow is Friday, so we will be back here with you tomorrow. Yeah, Kimberly's saying, or afford the care if you have permanent organ damage. So it's all of these things to think of. We just want to make sure that you have the information you need to make the best choice. There are schools currently being invited back after fall break on October 13th, and I know many of you are trying to make those decisions for your kids or your grandkids, so we want to make sure that you have the very latest data to make the most informed decision as it works for you or your family. All right, Garrett, what will you be watching tomorrow? I think these, seeing how many case numbers are coming in after a high reporting day.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're sort of in a holding pattern for watching the case numbers to see if they continue to rise, because like I said, there's no backfilling going on right now.
Yeah.
If that's coming with these mass volumes of testing, the testing increases, as well as obviously the inpatient and ER numbers, to see if there's correlation there. Just basically watching these until, of course, Sunday when the new CLI comes out, and just hoping the CLI doesn't go up.
Yeah, that's going to be a big concern as well. Okay, so we will be back here with you tomorrow, same time, same place. We want to thank all of you for joining us on here and for all the wonderful and nice comments and all the thank yous in there. We very much appreciate it. Sorry for coughing earlier. I'm in my laundry room now. So I'm in the corner of my laundry room. I'm probably breathing in some lint as I'm coughing, so I apologize about that. I don't have the luxury of taking over my son's bedroom anymore. He's not going for it. He wants his room back. So I've been shoved off to the corner of the laundry room. So this is parenting, right? I always say, I'll eat the outside of your apple. I cut the apple for them and I trim the outside off, and then I'm sitting there eating the skins. I'm like, what is this? This is parenthood, and we love it, and we're grateful.
I do that.
All right. You get it if moms and dads are out there watching. All right, we want to remind you, not forget, to tell you where you can find us. Garrett is on Twitter at Garrett_Archer. I'm also on Twitter, and that is at Katie Rammel. Many of you are watching on Facebook. If that's your preferred spot, you can find me me at facebook.com/news from Katie. We have newscasts coming up for you. All of the newscasts are normal today. No NBA playoffs or things like that this afternoon. So we'll have newscasts for you at 4, 5, 6, and 10 p.m. We also have a new newscast over on the CW at 9 p.m. You can check that out as well. And for the very latest coronavirus reporting, as well as the schools map is on there, or the schools list of places that have let us know that they've had exposures. That list you can find at abc15.com/schools. We didn't have enough time to get to it today, but we do have some varsity teams that are now going into quarantine, and you can find some of that information listed there as well. So we will be back with you tomorrow, same time, same place. In the meantime, be safe, everybody.